Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terribles over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with, talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
To the second one.
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch is what he's trying to do.
Speedway. We've got Devin Borden with us
at Keene Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keene.
Sitting here with Sean Keene. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep.
What's going on, everyone? January 22nd, 2024. We are at a Turn 2 Terribles. We got a good show for you this week. We got Brad Strawser with the Port Royal Speedway, also host of the Racing Roundup with Juniata County Radio. He's going to be joining us, talking to him about a bunch of different things. And we'll catch up on some news and notes, catching up on the Classic down in Australia, and kind of give a little preview here as we got sprint car racing happening this week down in Florida, 360s, but it's starting. It's coming. You could feel it. I could feel it in my loins. Season's coming.
So it's getting close. It's getting real for sure.
How you guys doing this week?
Awesome. Very good. Very good. Excited. Got to watch a little bit of Aussie racing. Felt good about that. I watched the what are the cars that go the wrong direction? Super rods. That's pretty entertaining. Have you seen those?
I think
in
so.
Australia. Yeah, they're like buggies and dirt buggies, and they go the wrong direction. Man, that blows my mind. I feel like I'm watching it like on TikTok where everything's backwards. I was like watching them turn right, but they're actually turning left. No, they're turning right, and it makes no sense. But I was there for it.
Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Your little girl just turned 7 years old.
Since
last Thursday.
Happy birthday.
And she's going to be almost ready for camping here soon. So,
yeah. Not our type of camping.
Oh, definitely our type in about 14 years. But so happy birthday to her.
For everybody watching us live, thank you for tuning in. Make sure that if you have any questions or comments that you want to drop in, make sure you put them in the chat. We'll get them on air. And so let's get right into it. Let's bring him on in, Brad Strawser. Brad, thank you for joining us.
How's it going?
Good, man. Good. Hey, I appreciate your time here this evening. We talked about this throughout the week. We had already had planned to have you on this week, and then some big news came out. It's like I can't tell you how many times in the last year that we've had this kind of thing happen where we talk to someone, we're going to have them on the show, and then something happens, and we're like, yeah, that was us. That was definitely because of us. So somehow or another, we don't plan this, but it works out. But before we get into Port Royal and kind of what's happening this year, tell us a little bit about your background. I don't know a whole lot. I've gotten to know you a little bit here the last year or two and seen you behind the mic and listened to some of the stuff that you do. But tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm local to Port Royal. I'll tell anybody that I meet at Port Royal Speedway. I grew up like less than 5 minutes from the Speedway, so I've been coming since there were 10 fans in the stands, and they talk about how rough it was. In the early 2000s, I was there through it all. Watching Scotty Haas win every late model race, and watch Keith Kaufman in the 7 car, and then in the 8H Heckman car, and all that. I was there for all of that. And so coming up through high school, I started wanting to get into sports broadcasting. So I started working at the local radio station. My senior year of high school, I ended up going to Penn State to do just that. And I didn't want to move far away from home to chase after sports broadcasting. So, I kind of looked around and got a job that, is a little bit more of an office job, but still wanted to do that. So I graduated college in the middle of COVID, 2020, and I'm desperately searching for a job. And I get a hold of Steve O'Neill. Steve O'Neill and I actually went to church together when I was growing up, the Methodist Church in Port Royal. We both attended there while I was growing up. And I said, hey, I will do anything you want. Like if you want me to, help take pictures of the guys that win the contingency awards, if you want me to, hold the microphone for Earl or whatever it might be, I'll do whatever, you want. I want to get involved. I'm really looking for a job. And I left him a voicemail when I did that in July. And he said, well, what do you actually want to do? And I said, well, I, went to school for announcing. I really love, doing play-by-play. So I'd love to do that at some point. And he said, okay, well, I want you to, meet with the rest of the team. So I did. I met with Earl and, talked to him a little bit. And they said, we'll give you a tryout run. We won't guarantee anything. And it was August 1st. I came and I did a race alongside Earl. And the idea was for me to, I did that night. And then the idea was for me to maybe be like a pit road reporter, be a third announcer maybe. But, things just ended up that I ended up being the second announcer alongside Earl, which was great. And I've had a really great opportunity to call some great races. I think I'm very lucky to do any of that at all. It's not what I anticipated, but that's how I got there. So, just a good connection with Steve O'Neill and, just asking the question if there's a job there, and it worked out.
And your role changed a little bit this year? Well, maybe not. I don't know. So tell me a little bit about what you're going to be doing in 2024 that might be different than years past, if anything.
Yeah, so now I am in control of the social media, for better or worse. So with Justin Snyder, he's now, he's, not a part of the promotional team anymore. He's with Appalachian Mountain Late Model Speed Week, which he'll do a fantastic job there. But in my opinion, just Justin Snyder's the best social media guy we have in track racing. Might be a little bit of, biased because I've worked alongside him here the last 3 years, but I'm going to be taking over the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, all of that, posting updates, graphics and things like that. So they're big shoes to fill because he's the most creative person I know. A lot of the stuff that we've done on social media, it's like his brainchild and what he's come up with. So I'm taking over the reins with that, with him not being there anymore. So, I also do, still do high school sports through the week and through the racing off season. So I'm using that platform to kind of practice and try to get better, to try and fill those shoes up the best I can and, not have any kind of drop off in quality. But yeah, I'm the social media manager now alongside of being on the rest of the promotional team.
And you're still going to do the announcing? You'll be doing announcing as well? Okay, good. Because I enjoy listening to you, the way you deliver your victory lane stuff. I think it's very clear. It's concise. I enjoy that. So I'm glad that that's not going to go anywhere. You also do this little radio gig. So, I've watched from afar. I got to admit, I've taken in a lot of content throughout the week on a lot of things. So I don't get to tune in as much as I should, but tell us a little bit about that and kind of where that has grown over the years, or is it? I don't even know how long it's been around. Tell us a little bit about the show.
Yeah, so Racing Roundup has been around for 60 plus years. It's probably terrible that I don't know the exact year. It used to run on 92.5, on the traditional FM radio for years. It was Cowboy Teen and Tommy Little that did it. They would, recap racing all over central Pennsylvania. They would, they would read recaps out of the newspaper and area auto and things like that for the radio station. And then 92.5, that station went under, was bought out in 2016. So Racing Roundup just disappeared. And that was a radio station that I started at in the summer of my senior year. And Juniata County Radio kind of picked up the slack. It became an internet radio station, and they mostly covered sports. But they knew I had connection whenever I started at the races at Port Royal. They were like, hey, do you want to bring Racing Roundup back? And at the time, I was just starting my first full-time job and doing this at the races. I felt like I had a lot on my plate, but I was like, yeah, I can do it, to the effect of how I felt the show went whenever I was a kid listening to it, which was, gather all the results from all the local tracks and essentially read it and, put a little bit of story to it. And, I did that for what would be 3 years. And we just put it out on JuniataCountyRadio.com, just internet radio station. And I had never had any idea if anybody listened to that show or not. I recorded it every week. I sent it off to the radio station boss, and that was that. My hands were clean of it. And then during the off seasons, I was like, well, I could maybe try to find some more things to do. And last year I did an interview with McKenna Hassey that we did a lot of publicizing and advertising for. And we got 1,000 listeners for just that episode alone. Which was pretty mind-boggling to me because I didn't know how many listeners I had. So then coming into this off-season, I was like, well, I'll try to get guests more regularly. And, this should be a podcast. Like I should, distribute this out so people can listen to it at any time instead of having to specifically log into JuniataCountyRadio.com, which is, very specific at a certain time to listen. So I looked into making a podcast, very easy, got it all set up through Spotify and have just started, doing these shows. And luckily through, working at Port Royal, I've made connections with people that I think are really interesting to do an interview with Chet Christner. I mean, that was one that I was like, this is huge because I think Chet is awesome. I mean, he's one of the ones that I made connection with my first year announcing that he was just super, super nice to me and offered me a lot of, advice and just as a good guy. So, that show did really well. And then doing with Devin Borden and Logan Wagner most recently. So I really don't know what the show is going to be in the future. If I'm going to transition it to just being an interview only show all the time, or if I'll make it, racing recaps once the season restarts, because that's what it's always been. But I've had such success with just doing the interview side of things and seeing the popularity of the show increase around that. So it's in a little bit of, I don't know, not limbo, but in a transition period of what the show is going to look like moving forward, just because, I've really taken full ownership over it now here over the past handful of months and, seen some success since changing it to a podcast.
I got to ask you a question. Hold on. I got to ask you a question because something that you did with Racing Roundup was you did a live show out of the back of a moving truck. We did a pre-race show at Bridgeport, and I was stressed to hell and getting that all set up. How the hell did you do that in the back of a moving truck? And how was the experience? Because it looked like you guys were having a ton of fun.
We were having a ton of fun. It was an awkward live show, but I have good guys that helped do the show with me. The one is not even local anymore. He lives in Pittsburgh now, but he brought the equipment. He ran it live. He ran my microphone, and then I just kind of ran out through the camping area of Port Royal and just interviewed people as they came up. Not a lot of people were super eager to talk, but we had fun with it. It was something that was my idea with the guy from Pittsburgh. We kind of talked and we were like, oh, this would be a fun idea to do. The expectation coming in was a little different than how it turned out to be, but I think it was still really successful. I'm surprised that I didn't. That was another one that I didn't know how many people even listened to that show. So for you to bring that up makes me laugh, because I was kind of like, I didn't really know what to think of it. So I was like, I hope nobody really listened to that one. But we had fun with it, so it was good.
Yeah, I actually missed that. When was that, Jimmy? Were you up there when that went on?
Yeah, that was Weikert weekend, right?
Yeah.
Weekend.
Jimmy was probably in the back of the truck with him.
We were. I wasn't in the back of the truck, but I got some swag from you guys, and I was watching you guys.
That's the time we got the.
Yeah,
that's the time we got the stuff. Well, I was there.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny listening to you kind of talk about the recent history of the show, and it's not unlike what we've gone through a little bit, from where we were starting just us talking shit for 2 hours to started to have guests, and we were like, wow, this, like 13 people watched, like somebody cared, and we're just fans. We're literally fans wanting to get to know people. So for you to kind of, I believe you're underestimating the reach and the ability of what you do have there. You're literally involved with a track. You have tons of connections in that world. We started making connections sort of walking through the pits with started doing the photography and getting to know people a little bit that way, and it was kind of like our first few guests are just our closest friends. Brett Strickler, Kyle Keene, Troy Wagaman, Cody Hartlaub. And listen, people still watch. We knew those guys, but people still wanted to get to know them. So there's a genuine curiosity out there for these personalities, no matter how big or small, because everybody gets to sit in the stands and watch them race. And we're all race fans. So, big, small, or indifferent, I think there's a lot of people that want to get to know these folks.
And I think it's very interesting, that story and our story, and Brett Perigo being the knot that ties it with that night where he finished second. We didn't even have a podcast yet. We were like we couldn't even crawl yet, toddler stages of doing it. Yeah. And he went there and he's in victory lane and he mentions all of us with you, and that's just crazy. We use it in the intro. It's like that story, how they're intertwined is compelling to me, really.
And even when you hear him talking that interview, we weren't nearly as close with Brett then as we are now.
We are now, right?
We're helping him sell T-shirts, and we're going to watch him race at Path Valley. Like, we've gotten to know him so well, probably since that night.
Right. That night alone, he may have been able to recognize Jimmy and myself face to face. That may have been.
That's about it. So,
and all he saw was arms waving, telling him to go faster.
Yeah. So it was interesting to hear kind of that evolution of it, and I think you're really onto something there, and I think there's space for more of that content around here. I think it's lacking, in my opinion, because there's so much racing. There's so many people in so many divisions, and there's so many fans in this area that I don't think there could be enough of folks like us, yourself, ourselves, Beer Hill Gang TV when it was around, having guests on and some of these other shows. And it doesn't have to be extravagant, right? It doesn't have to be out of this world with the technology we have today. It doesn't have to be in some studio where we all have to meet and spend, hours and hours of our time getting ready or prepared. So I think that the technology and the reach to people, it makes it more accessible, and then the social media and the outreach. So just super cool. I'll end there on that. But 2024 Port Royal, tell us a little bit about what's in store. We obviously just heard the breaking news just a couple days ago, yesterday, day before, I don't even remember which day. Weikert, $75,000. Okay. I read it, and I had to read it 3 times before it hit me, and I went,
that's big.
How's it going to be more than the Tuscarora 50? So listen, sponsorship, promotion, those things help a ton. So we'll get to Weikert a little bit more specifically in Tuscarora, but tell us what's in store for Port Royal in 2024. What do you guys have planned?
Yeah, so I mean, we've had conversations on different changes that are coming. I mean, I think the 2024 is going to look different than 2023. I mean, a lot of the sprint car racing landscape is going to. I mean, the first thing that popped out to people when the schedule came out, the World of Outlaws aren't going to be there. And I think that's the big topic of conversation with everything that's going on and the what do you call it, the landscape around sprint car racing right now. So I think that makes a difference, but with obviously the announcement of the Weikert and 75K, the one thing that I would say for the 2024 season is, just be ready. I would say, just anticipate big stuff is going to happen, because the Weikert news happened like that. I've been meeting with O'Neill and with Earl and the rest of the promotional team and the board, and that wasn't in discussion, as little as 3 weeks ago. It wasn't something that, had come across to me. It kind of came across suddenly. And, a lot of the thoughts that cross the fans' mind crosses my mind, and I work there and I'm close to the team. The first thing was my mind was the Tuscarora 50 still 57 and the Weikert 75. But, I would just be ready for anything to happen. I think there's a lot in store, and a lot can happen. A lot can happen. You don't want to promise anything. I don't want to get a bunch of people excited and, promise that anything is going to be $1 billion to win, because you never know. Things can fall through. We've had exciting things happen since I've worked there, or planned to have happen, that have just, fallen through the cracks last minute. But just with the Weikert, it just kind of was announced and happened. I would just say be prepared for anything.
I think it's awesome. Central PA, we are very blessed, and I think we're in an era right now in Central Pennsylvania with sprint car racing that is going to be remembered for a long time. Right? It could be remembered as the golden age of sprint car racing. Who knows what the future holds, like you said? But we talk about PA Speed Week, minimum 10 grand to win every race. 75, these huge numbers coming out, whether they're sanctioned races or non-sanctioned races, and some huge numbers in amounts of money coming out. I think we should all be very thankful the state of sprint car racing in Central Pennsylvania right now, and don't take it for granted, because it wasn't always this way, and it may never be this way again. Potentially, you never know, but it can walk a fine line, right? We can walk a tightrope. Look at the state of Ohio right now, right? Ohio Speed Week up in limbo because it was related and tied to sanctioning bodies and on and on. And like you said, this landscape of the sprint car world is changing right below our feet, right beneath our feet, mostly in a good way, but it could also flip. So I think that people need to really not take it for granted, show up to the racetrack and support it while it's happening, because it may not be forever, and I don't see that coming, I hope, but there's no guarantees in this world. Don't know what the future holds.
Just like you were saying, to add on there, with working at Port Royal, and people that I've gotten to meet, people have come from Canada, from Virginia, all over to Port Royal, and they'll say to me, "You don't know how lucky you have it in Central PA. You have a dirt track in a stone's throw of you in any direction, north, south, east, and west. From where I'm at in Port Royal, you can go to Williams Grove, you can go to Lincoln, you can go to Sealands Grove, you can go to Path Valley." And, I don't know if you guys know Kyle Simons at all, but he worked at Port Royal here the last 2 years. And he was like, Port Royal is my second closest track next to Winchester. And he lives in Virginia. And, it's a multiple hour drive for him to come up to Port Royal every week. That's the one thing that, I always want to get across to race fans is like, we live in an unbelievably lucky and blessed area for dirt track racing, because we have such good dirt track racing in such a small area compared to the rest of the country.
100%. Jimmy, Chris, we got
something, maybe the flip side of that now, maybe people not realizing not how lucky they are. It was something that Chris and I noticed when 75,000 for the Weikert was announced, was the amount of negative comments. Like, it's a good thing. How do you... I know that would drives me nuts from me looking in, because it's you guys are doing something awesome.
It's straight up, it pisses off.
Yeah.
I'm a guy sitting here. I can see Williams Grove's lights. If they were to turn them on right now, I could see it from where I'm at. So 50 minutes to Port Royal Speedway, 40 to Lincoln. We get it. $75,000 Weikert, Williams Grove, $75,000 National Open. But why does to Jimmy's point, how do you handle that? We don't care that they pay 75. You're doing your job for the Weikert. That is your sole task for that May weekend, is to promote the hell out of Weikert and make it maximized for the drivers and fans. How do you handle the negativity there?
Yeah, so that's something I'm new to. With running the social media, I try really hard to. There's such a difference in mindset of what you do with the comments of do you stay out of there and not let it tear you down and make you feel terrible every day? Or do you go in there and, use that as constructive criticism? Kind of a mix of both, where it's like, okay, I gotta, find which ones are crap essentially and which ones are valid
Right.
points. And there was a lot of back and forth about the Weikert going 75,000 to win, and there's going to be more info coming out about the Weikert. I'm going to be doing an interview with Todd Weikert Wednesday to talk more about the 75K and the total purse and breakdowns and things like that, because I know that there were fans and people on social media that were like, well, 75,000 is great, but does it pay throughout the purse? Well, Danny Dietrich was in there saying, like, the Weikert has always paid throughout the purse. Like, what are you saying?
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Like that's where we're at here. Like, it's a thankless job you have now, and hopefully Justin told you that.
Yeah. So I talked with Steve O'Neill, and I'm gonna do an interview with Todd Weikert, and the decision to take this and make it such a big event, and what that means and why he's doing it and why he's doing it now, and then get into the purse breakdown and how it's beneficial for everybody who comes out and runs the event. That's all coming. It just everybody, it's a social media age. Everybody wants the answer right now. And, that's the one thing that I do a little bit differently with the social media is I'm not answering every comment that comes on the Facebook page, because I think that can lead up and down. I'm trying to decide, I'm trying to figure out my own path on that a little bit of, which ones do you answer and then which ones do you not? And I saw that discourse going on between Lance and Danny and all the fans, and I just thought I'll just leave this one untouched. It looks like it's going fine without me in it. So
plus when you have Lance Luis and Danny Dietrich going, why get involved? Let
that could
go.
That could go sideways really quick, but they're going to be defenders of it, right? They're both smart guys when it comes to it. They are racers. Their words carry some weight for sure.
Right. When I see those guys going at it, I'm like, you know what? Not my battle. I'll wait. Like you said, there's more information coming. The key, I think Jimmy said, and we agree, like, that's big news, 75,000 to win, and immediately the fan base. Oh well, what's the last play? No one cares. Like, let's just celebrate this happy thing right now. Like, God,
listen, and I put Brad to the test a week or two before that on social media, so he did a great job. So well done, Brad. He did a great job handling my idiot comment, and I took it down. We were good. No, but when I look at the Weikert weekend, and listen, I've been following Port Royal a couple of years now. Jimmy's been up doing Port Royal stuff for longer than I have. But when we interview people and we talk to drivers, and you get toward Weikert weekend, and we know the Tuscarora 50 special. We know that. And this doesn't take away from that. But I always hear people saying they want to win the bull. They want to win the trophy at Weikert. They want to win the trophy at Weikert. I feel like the trophy was outshining, like the trophy's badass. But I feel like this 75 grand matches up to the trophy envy that it's gotten. And I think it's just great all the way around. Like, that is a wanted trophy, no matter how much money was thrown at it. It reminds me, and it's not at that level yet, but it reminded me of like Golden Drillers type stuff, right? Where like people want the trophy, they want to put it in the trophy case. That's what the Bull trophy was. The vibes I got from drivers saying, I want to win that. I want to win Weikert. I think the 75 grand matches up great with the mystique of what's been built with the trophy. I think it's perfect. And again, the Tuscarora 50 could stay at 57 grand, and there's nobody that wants to win it any less than they did last year. Right. Like, you still want to win the Tuscarora 50. It's still $57,000 if nothing changes. And I don't think it has to. And honestly, it carries that. That place is packed every year for it. Doesn't matter what it's been, right? So I don't know. And again, my personal opinion, with no knowledge of anything, don't believe for a second it stays at 57 grand. But if it did, I don't think that 75 at Weikert takes away from that at all. That's my opinion.
No, and I think, like, my personal view of it is, we have a big summer race, which is the Bob Weikert Memorial, and then we have our big end of the year race, which is the Tuscarora 50, right? If you look at Williams Grove, you have Summer Nationals, National Open. I'm not saying that we're building our schedule or how we're structuring our races off of that same format, but I mean, you have your big summer race that you can plan your vacation around. I want to go out and see the Bob Weikert Memorial. I want to see somebody lift that bullhead, which, just like you said, that trophy is such a big deal. I remember when Kyle Larson was running in Pennsylvania, more regularly during that time, and he said about how bad he wanted a bullhead. I think that really, at least for me, put around like the full mystique about how bad every driver wants the bullhead. But yeah, we have that. They're just two separate races on their own, right? They each have their own history to them. They're chock full of history. And like you said, everybody wants to win those two specific races for different reasons. And who doesn't want $50,000+, $70,000+, like $57,000, and it goes up every year. And in the last 2-3 years, it's been $60,000. With the help of Jim and Sandy Klein and other sponsors to help take the test score 50 up. So, like you said, I agree with you fully.
So, I have a thought here. So, one, that's awesome that Jim and Sandy Klein keep stepping in and make test score 50 to 60+ bursts. Now, my question though, so you have the Weikert now becoming that second or maybe 1B premier event. Where does that leave the Dream Race looking ahead? So the Dream Race is one of those that's always been that August special, kind of get you tuned up. Where are we at as far as that being one of your marquee events, or is that just still special for who it's honoring?
Yeah, I think that's still, a huge event. That's one that I personally have a lot of connection to because of being at Port Royal, whenever it was in a rougher shape. And Mike Kleck is a huge sponsor for that. And, we rely a lot on local sponsors at Port Royal, and Mike Kleck is a big one, and him coming in and he's taking it up to, if you win both events, you're walking out of there with $30,000, which is also nothing to sneeze at.
That's a pretty penny, right?
Right. So, it's still right there, and it's non-sanctioned, right? You don't have a lot of those, and, with the Tuscarora 50's high limit and the Weikert's high limit, you got a $30,000 to win both events. That is non-sanctioned just for the drivers at home. That, that's still, if you want to mark that 2 or 3, depending on how you rank the other two, it is right there, 100%.
Yeah, and I love that. I've always loved the Dream Race. That was one of the events I got to always go to back when my youth as a Williams Grove homer. Go to the Dream Race was kind of like the warm up for the 50 for me. On the few times we got to go to Port Royal, so I personally love the Dream Race. What do you got, Jimmy?
The one thing that really jumps out to me and strikes me here, and nobody wants to get into the what measuring contest when it comes to local tracks, but it's hard to ignore a little bit of this. You're talking about the Dream Race being if you win them both $30,000 when some tracks don't have a race all season that's $30,000, right? Like potentially there might be whatever, but again, I'm going to use a comparison. If Lincoln Speedway has one outlaw show midweek, it's $10,000 to win, or $15,000 or $20,000. Their headlining Speed Week shows what, $20,000, 25?
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. Now Williams Grove gets Summer Nationals. They're going to get National Open. But when you look at the scheme of things like that, when we're talking about the Dream Race being $30,000 if you win both, that's wild to me. That's not like, if you look at that, I believe the big difference there is the community. And you talked about Mike Kleck, and you talked about, the local sponsors and things. Not that the other tracks don't have it, but I feel like Port Royal has such a deep history, like rooted history with the track, and they're willing to support it no matter what. And they don't try to push it out and have new neighbors come in and talk about the track in a bad way. Sure, it's not all perfect, right? I'm sure there's conversations that go on that are challenging. And I think some of those have been public over the years, but the amount of money that's gone into the track, the amount of investments that's being made, and the amount of money that you can now put up for the drivers is unlike anything else we have going on in Central PA. And again, I'm not taking shots at anybody else with that, but I believe that the community and the community business owners have also have bought into this and are fans. Whether, again, I don't know Mike Kleck and I don't know Mike Kleck Paving, but they're obviously race fans and willing to support and continue to put up big money for this and other local sponsors. I just feel like it's a very much a community-centric track.
Right, 100%. Like, it's a different feel when you're walking around Port Royal, the town, Tuscarora 50 weekend. I did it this past year. You can walk around there, everyone's bought in. Versus if you're here for Williams Grove National Open, No one beyond that stoplight from 15 to Williams Grove Road and whatever square you want to make, they don't even know there's an event happening unless they're race fans. Lincoln, I'm less familiar with, but same idea. If you're not from, what is that, Cross Keys South, like no one knows there's a big event going on down below there. But Royal, you go over the mountain and you can look down into the valley coming my way, and it's like, damn, there's something going on down there. And the bridge being out may be the most controversial thing they've had in a long time. So I'm glad that that's resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Port Royal, I mean, sometimes you're just, less lucky. I mean, to be in the town and, you have the community be around you for the large most part. We went through some things there 2 years ago with, the town was concerned with camping and, understandably so, with some of the issues that kind of come up with that.
It should be. I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
We know some guys.
Yeah, you hear some of the stories that happen, and I would be like, that's not happening in my backyard. But for the large majority, though, you have the town behind you, and like you said, you got the whole, the county itself is not very big, and like you said at Williams Grove, like I worked in Mechanicsburg for the last 3 years. Only till recently did I, come a little bit closer to Cameron Street. But, I worked with people who lived like less than 5 minutes from Williams Grove, and they were like, "Yeah, I don't really know what that is," which is just
zero idea. It's crazy, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, where like I grew up, like everybody knew, what Port Royal Speedway was. Everybody knew the races, and where I lived 5 minutes outside the track, like I could hear the PA system. I couldn't make out the words, but I could hear like the voice if I was ever home, like as a kid. I wouldn't stay for the features when I was like 5, but I could hear the PA announcer from my front porch. And everybody knew. Like that's just crazy to me. But we have a very great community around Port Royal Speedway.
100%. And what I'll say is this: the only thing, literally the only thing I don't like is that you'd probably hear the announcer over the cars because the mufflers suck. So that's all I'm saying. I get it; it's a compromise.
That's where you went with it.
But yeah, I am, because like, listen, you can have a 410 go out there and be ripping, right? You put a wingless 360 on the track and they're louder than a 410. How does that make sense? Like you put these other divisions that may not have mufflers, they're louder than the 410s. Like I'm a sprint car guy, man. Like I want to hear, no, but listen, if that's the compromise we do to make this what it is, I'm all in. Okay. So I'm not saying that as a negative.
So I have one question, and Jeremy thought he had the most controversial one right there. I actually have one better. So Brad, you mentioned you were there at Keith Coffin days in the 7 and the 8H. How was it during the Chad Layton days when he took over the 7 car there? Like, how was the fans? As a Chad Layton fan, I already know, but I want to hear from a guy that was a Port Royal regular.
Yeah, so I can remember like Chad got a lot of hate, right? Like, I mean, he was bad Chad Layton.
All the hate, man.
Right, for a reason. I was a lot younger then, so like I also hated him for driving the chip car.
Exactly, that's what it was.
But then also, like, I still really liked Middlesworth potato chips. So, like,
such a conflict, right?
What do I do about that? Except I'll still cheer for Keith because I like him. But, for me personally, it was like, that's Keith Kaufman's car. You're not supposed to be in it. And then he was winning all the time. And I was like, all right, I'm good with this guy.
Yeah, then he won the championship, and then well, they put a jalapeno on it to change it up. Like it was bad, dude. Like those back in those days when the few times I go to Port Royal would be for the big shows, and he'd come out there, and I had no idea the hatred. I was 10 years old, 12 years old, and he just booed him. Like, what the hell, man? It's like,
and honestly, like that's
didn't get it.
I try to get insight now because I was young during that time. Like, to me, like, Chad Layton just disappeared to me.
That's true.
And, like, Mike Erdley disappeared. Like, there are guys that were huge names to me whenever I was watching racing at Port Royal that they're just like, boom, gone. So, like, I will ask guys like just kind of casually, like things that have just been on my mind for like 14 years or more. Like, hey, where is Mike Erdley now? Because I know those guys know. Because I'm like, he's just like, did he move away? Is he okay? Like, does he hate dirt track racing now? Because like I just don't know where they went. Because as a kid, they just like suddenly weren't there anymore.
That Lisa, whatever, number 11. Mike Early. That's all I knew, and it was just gone, and he's gone. Never heard from him again. I'm like, salute you. Like, damn. Like Todd Hester's another one like that. Speaking of Keith Kaufman, like the barbecue chip card, just like gone. Okay, sayonara, buddy. Like, whatever. Go ahead, Jimmy.
One question I had is, Port's kind of sneakily become the premier super late model track here in PA. You guys do a lot for that division, run it pretty much weekly. You guys have a good thing going with the 410s and the super lates. Can you tell everybody just kind of what you guys got planned for the super late models in terms of big events this year?
Yeah, so I mean, the schedule looks the same as what you saw, in the past. Obviously, World Outlaw late models not there, but those Lucas Oil late model dirt series shows, I mean, those are bangers. Like every time they come when it doesn't rain. We always have a problem with rain when they come to town, which is unfortunate. But I don't know what you guys, everybody's got a different opinion on an announcer. James Essex is another one that like I think he's hilarious. And him and Dustin Jarrett were doing the Rumble by the River this year, and we were having like insane heat races. And James Essex turned around and just like grabbed a hold of me like with both arms and just was like jumping up and down for the heat races, like while it was going on. Which like I'm dying laughing, but like trying not to come over the mic because he's wearing the headset, like calling the race, like jumping up and down with me in his arm. So I think all those races are super awesome. I love the late models. So like when the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series come to town, I know there's there's obviously the rivalry between them and the World of Outlaws, and who commits to what series there. But those shows are going to be fantastic. I love when those shows come to town because the racing is magnificent when they come. Like it you can't ask for more for late model racing, especially in sprint car country.
Yeah, I wasn't really a late model fan. I never really been that much, but Port Royal's made me a fan. Not to the point where I am with 410s, but man, I love watching late models there. They always put on a good show, whether it's a weekly show, Lucas Oil show, obviously, if it's the big names come to town. It's always great racing there. It's rare to have a track, I think, that can run the different divisions like that, run so differently, but both put on a good show just as equal.
And this is the first year, this past year, where we didn't have like the points battle come down to like the very last race. Like Rick Eckert had it locked up, by the last race this year. But Gary Stuhler, everybody felt like they were cheering for Gary Stuhler to win one because he's been finishing second in points here the last 2-3 years. But like the races have always been good. I mean, Colton Flinner went on a run of winning like 6 races, but it really feels like we have a handful of late model guys that can win a race and it be competitive. I mean, that's another one that when I grew up as a kid, it was just, you had to pick out where Scotty Haas started because he was going to win it. It was just by how much, when I was a kid.
I'm the same as Jimmy. I grew up watching late models and I never disliked them. I went to Lincoln a lot, I was younger, and they put on a good show, but they don't hardly go to Lincoln anymore. Obviously BAPS runs a pretty good, limited series. But I've really enjoyed my time watching late models up there and, with Jimmy on Satterley and Eckert. And I was up there in 2022 when Dylan Stake won, I think, opening night of theirs. And it was his first career race in a super and his first career win. Like that was super cool. I got to know Trevor Feathers a little bit in that crew and Austin Berry and, kind of definitely makes it easier to follow and enjoy when you get to know some of those folks for sure. And, you pick out a favorite to root for. What's the state of the limited late models up there? So here's what, I don't know the state of that division in general. And if we have anybody listening who knows a little more than I do, I feel like the supers always bring cars and the limiteds are like, we're getting 20, 24 maybe. And it struggles a little bit. Again, I don't know anything about the series. So what do you think might be holding that back? And what ideas do you have potentially that could improve that?
Yeah, I think it's tough for the limited late models because they're not put on the schedule as much as the supers and the 410s and things like that. You know, they're treated like a support division, and that's tough because the guys that run those classes, you know, that's their premier class. So they'll start to look elsewhere to run, and we have tracks like Selinsgrove that run them maybe a little bit more regularly, or guys will go out to Hagerstown and run them, or they'll take the trip to Winchester and they'll drive a little bit further away just to try something else. You know, I know we have a handful of guys that will come out and they'll run the Butch Running Memorial. I know we put a lot of, you know, we get a lot of sponsorship help to make the super late model show and the limited late model show, you know, very good. And the Zimmerman truck repair, like Ron Zimmerman race that we just added this past year, you know, put a lot of money for the limiteds to race for. You know, there's been some things that it just doesn't seem like things fall their way with weather. I mean, this past year was tough with weather, but in years like the year before that, it seemed like every time we had limited late models on the schedule, we got rain that just didn't help them have a show, which I know was frustrating for them. And we heard about it, and, you know, we understand. You know, I don't know. Racing is really expensive, from, you know, the 410s to limited late models aren't cheap either. And you know, I think it's tough, you know, to see those dwindling numbers where guys are. I'm seeing some guys, and you know, I'm maybe not the most well knowledge on this. Maybe I'll hear from some of our limited late model guys that watch this, but I'm seeing guys that are going to super late models because, you know, there's just more events of that, so they're investing more so that they can run more. And then you'll see guys that'll just go out and run elsewhere because they're running them a little bit more regularly, or whatever it might be. So I don't really know what the answer is. They put on good racing too. I mean, Devin Hart and Trent Brenneman and, you know, Dylan Stake, they put on good shows. They make good passes and make for competitive racing at Port Royal too. You know, I feel like luck hasn't fallen on their side schedule wise. And, you know, it's tough. Making a schedule is not easy. You know, I won't come here and cry the blues about how hard it is to make the schedule and reschedule races and things like that. But it is not easy to do. And whenever it's like every time there's a limited late model race on the schedule and there's rain in the forecast and it rains out or something like that, you know, it's like, man, those guys are really, you know, getting the short end of the stick, and they don't get compared to those premier classes as many races as everybody else. So, I mean, it's been tough. That's when I don't know. And those guys are some of the nicest guys, you know, in the limited late models that I talk to, you know, in any class. So it's hard.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. And listen, I know you don't have the magic potion there, but I feel like the racing is so good. You know, not a lot of guys tear up a lot of equipment. It might be a little harder on those equipment as far as engines, but at the same time, I think that it's like a little hidden gem at Port Royal when the limiteds are there. That it's just such good racing. You know, and I don't know. I hope that the numbers increase because it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch the racing. Switching gears just a little bit. We've taken up a lot of your time, but I'm genuinely curious. Flow racing. Okay. I've heard all kinds of things in the off season about contracts and dates and times and, you know, the streaming. Is Flow back this year full time again? Are there any changes on that front?
No changes. They're back. They're covering everything with us here this year.
So, listen, you told us we didn't.
I told you that he
I
was
know,
the controversial one.
when we started this, were there conversations this offseason that led to some of the changes with who's coming to the track and who's not, centered around the flow racing debates or centered around flow racing in general?
From my knowledge, no. But I don't know all the details that went on in those conversations. But from my knowledge, no. From what I know, I don't know much. I was told a little bit of what went on, to be honest, a couple months ago. And life is, you know, obviously we've got a 75,000 race now that's been thrown in front of me. You know, there's been a lot of big happenings since you know, the schedule was made and we were talking schedule and things like that. But no, flow racing and the streaming alliances, you know, from what I know, didn't play a factor. That doesn't mean that behind closed doors between some of the bigger heads at play, they weren't, but not from
That's
my
as
level of
diplomatic.
knowledge.
That's as diplomatic as you can be, and I'm okay with it
That was
because
well played, sir. Well played.
here's where and listen, this is not a question for you to answer. You can smile and we'll move on. But I'm going to make a statement and say that if the word that got out was about, the Outlaws decided to pull themselves out of the sprint cars, so Port Royal said, well, F you, we're going to get rid of your late models, bring Lucas Oil in. To me, that's a baller fucking move, and I applaud all of you for it. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Jimmy, Chris, what else you got so we can get him out of here?
He answered my big hitting question.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
That Chad Layton thing was big on my mind.
I'll ask you one question. Outside of Port Royal, what's your favorite? What's the track that you're you try to get to, if you try to get to any around here, or like a race that you try to get to outside of Port Royal?
No hesitation, it's Path Valley. I love Path Valley. That place is awesome. I try to get there for their, I think it's called their Night of Power. They have super late models there. It's typically a ULMS night. I watched a heck of a good race there last year. Kyle Hardy won the super late model race there last summer. I go there with my stepdad, and that is such an awesome race. They'll do 305s, and then they'll do modifieds. And the super late model racing is really good. The 305 racing is good, but I love Path Valley. Path Valley was the second track that we would typically go to when I was growing up. If we weren't at Port Royal, we'd go to Path Valley, and I think that place is awesome.
I agree. I've been there a couple times over the years. I went twice last year, and both times I was just like, some of the shit that I saw go down in racing that was good was like, this is cool. Like, and it is cool. That place is so neat it's wide, it's high banked, but yet it's small. Like it's pretty wild. I mean, and if people watching this ever went to Trailway, it's like Trailway on steroids. Go to Path Valley. Go take the trip. You don't have cell service. No one's going to bother you for 3 hours. Go watch some badass racing. I don't care what division it is. It doesn't matter what division because they're all freaking cool.
But if you are going to go to Path Valley, and to lead into a comment from the comment section, watch the Wingless Sportsman's. And the question is, Brad, what do you think about Wingless Sportsman's at Port Royal? From Tony Sharp and/or Super Sportsman Media.
Those are also a lot of fun. I mean, there's not a class that I don't like, but I mean, I love the wingless Super Sportsman too. I love watching them throw into the corners, and also the people that I've met through that, and talking in the pits and down in Victory Lane. Also, just a really good group of people. I think Cliff Bryan is the only one that I interviewed that has like really intimidated me.
I believe it, dude. He's a big SOB, man. He's a big SOB.
He's really nice. He's really nice. I interviewed him during the Bob Weikert Memorial when they ran with Bob Weikert Memorial this year, and he talked about running with Bob Weikert, in the past, and the emotions that came up with that, but. He's a big guy, and I am like 5'7", and I'm just him and Danny Dietrich. Like I'm just looking up at those guys, like they're in the clouds, and I'm down to really way down here. So those guys intimidated me a little bit, but yeah, the Super Sportsman, Wingless Super Sportsmen are awesome.
Dude, I was there.
I have a closing thought. The next time you interview Brett Perigo, just slap him in the face on behalf of T2T here, just because. Just
hit him. I was at that.
We will.
I was at that race when Cliff Bryan got out of that car. And listen, I know the name, but I have not been involved in any type of this racing. I was just a fan in the stands. I was down there that day. He got out, and I was like, This guy is a blood ass. Like this guy. I was like, same dude. I was just like, holy shit. I like he just looking at the guy. I was like, huh?
I'm not fighting him.
I'm 6'3", 260, and I'm like,
and I'm walking away, baby.
I'm not gonna look at this guy sideways. Like, holy shit. But no, listen, I agree. I don't know if I've seen a bad race from Port Royal. I mean, maybe it looks different from the stands at times, if it's around the bottom, it's a slower series. But if you have not been in the infield at Port Royal and you haven't walked around and stood along the fences, go do it, because that's where we kind of know it. I mean, I've sat in the pit stands and I've sat in the regular stands. 410s are a show from anywhere around that place, but some of these other divisions from a distance probably could look a little like, hey, it's around the bottom, it's whatever. But if you go to the infield and you get a chance, or you get a pit pass and you get to go inside, do yourself a favor and go in the infield and watch it from turn 1, turn 2, turn 4, wherever, and watch these guys
Especially turn
navigate
2.
the track. It's
Turn 2.
not as under control and easy as it looks
No.
sometimes from a distance in the stand. So
Those guys are working. They're working hard for sure.
yeah, and it's not, there could be a guy leading, but I promise you he's not having an easy time with it. Just saying. So I encourage y'all. Brad, thank you so much for taking some time. A little different. We don't have you to thank sponsors necessarily. You get to do it every weekend on the microphone. So we look forward to seeing you up there this year. We'll definitely stop by, say hi. If you see us running around like idiots, say hi to us too. Don't be a stranger, and have a great 2024, man.
Hey, thanks, guys. Look forward to seeing you at the track.
Awesome.
Thank you, Brad. Make sure everybody goes out and follows, Port Royal Trackside Media, and check out Racing Roundup on Juniata County Radio. Thank you.
Thanks.
So that was awesome. Always a good time talking to people behind the scenes at the track, and Brad's no exception. That was a good time there.
That's good. That's cool seeing his story. As a little kid growing up here in the racetrack, and then now he's living his best life. Working at the racetrack. It's kind of like, make it selfish. It's all about me. As a kid, I grew up seeing Williams Grove every week. I'm always partial to Williams Grove, so not working.
Yeah, we know, Chris.
Hey, listen here, buddy. Love Brad for that, and he had a lot of cool things to say, and I loved hearing that story, and just like how he knew a lot of it. That was cool.
Yeah,
agreed, man.
So let's get into. There's not too many news and notes for the week. Aaron Reitzel won the Classic down in Australia. I don't know if anybody's that excited about it. It looked like it was between Sheldon Haudenschild and James McFadden, but they got caught up in something and kind of.
So, how does Jimmy feel about Sheldon Haudenschild hitting the wall and flipping?
Sounds like a Sheldon thing to do.
Indeed. Cool for Aaron Reitzel. I guess it's the first American to win down there since 2015. So that's
an interesting
nugget. Did see that nugget on social media. So good for Aaron Reitzel, and glad to see he can win a big event somewhere.
I did appreciate. I know some people crack jokes maybe, but I did appreciate Brock Zierfoss running the Lasowski's team. I thought that was pretty cool.
Did he run the bottom,
since he's been working with him that whole time, I think, down in Australia. So maybe that translates into something here in America. I don't know. That could be
for your sake.
Good for him.
I hope so.
His results were dramatically different down there than they've been.
Yeah,
so.
he ran well. I mean,
so you would say he ran him upside down. Good for him.
I would not say that. I wouldn't say that.
That one didn't hit.
But that one didn't hit.
It's for the best. It's fine. Continue.
That wasn't the one.
Wide right, baby. Wide right.
Speaking of Australia, it was just announced today, and it's kind of something we kind of alluded to last week. We kind of knew, but Callum Williamson from Australia is going to come run the Trone 39 this year.
I'm shocked.
But it's cool to see that officially get announced, and I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, that Trone car is not outside of bringing outsiders of PA in. You know what I mean? And it's a good opportunity for a good young driver. I mean, he was killing it, especially in Western Australian Speedway. He was on battling with Brad Sweet, Rico, and just up front all the time. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do here in the States.
Interesting for sure.
Agreed. Time will tell, my friends. Time will tell.
And then
Breaker's 36 days away.
It's getting close. We do have Volusia this week. 360. A lot of guys are going down there. It sounds like Justin Whittle's going down there in the Glenn Steyer's car. You'll see some local flavor down there. I know Danny Dietrich's getting ready to go down more for 410s, but you're gonna start seeing that here. So that'll be at least some sprint car racing to watch. If on I think that's on Flow. Maybe I'm wrong. No, it would have to be on Dirt Vision because it's
USCS is on Dirt Vision from what I saw today.
I thought USCS was on its own thing.
Yeah, but Volusia's a WRG track, so who knows? We'll find
I
out.
saw today because I actually was hoping it was on Flow. It's on Dirt Vision. Fun facts. Guess we won't watch.
I have it, so
sorry guys, that's it.
We can have a party at my house and watch it.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
That's really it. Gio Celsi's car dropped. It looks good. I just wish it had a white number.
I don't think it needs to. It has
doesn't
the white
need
outline.
to. It doesn't need
It doesn't
to.
need to. I just, if it was one thing that I would add to it, that's the number just looks weird, and I would make it a different color. That's all.
Right. I don't know. We'll see. I have to see it in the flesh first.
Do you?
In the flesh.
In the flesh. So where are we at?
Promo time. As you know, Chris is going to be working here with Tony Sharp of Super Sports and Media, PA Dirt Track and Creative. Second podcast next week. Start
Wednesday, 7 p.m., January 31st. Next Wednesday.
And your first guest.
Boom. Steve.
The man,
Wilbur.
Steve Wilbur.
Whose ass is in that picture? What is happening?
That is probably Steve Wilbur's.
That's not.
Steve Wilbur's right there.
That's how crazy he is, man. I don't think you know what you're in for, buddy.
I don't know if you know. I don't know if you know what you're in for.
Probably true, man. Probably true. Steve Wilbur next Wednesday.
I'll be tuning into that for sure. I'll be excited to see how y'all handle him.
So Steve Wilbur next Wednesday, January 31st. Tony Sharp and I are gonna dive in on some wing super sportsmen and some wingless sportsmen, kind of see what's going on. BAPS dropped their schedule. Big events. We have the 50th annual 100 lapper coming up in August, and that's their marquee event. Plus wingless stuff, Brett Perigo and Path Valley.
Yep.
Can't wait.
Definitely.
And Steve Wilbur, he's going to be a character, dude. He's been around since 1980. There's stories among us all.
Listen, like I follow him on Facebook. That's a show in itself. Just his Facebook post. I have to look at it and I go, how the hell did he think of that?
Dude, it's going to be wild. Tune in
What
for
a
a wild time. Tony Sharp's wild. I'm wild. Steve Wilbur is the wildest. So
it's going to be wild.
Wednesday night wilds.
Should be called
Wednesday night wilds, baby.
So definitely check out Roland. Visit Super Sportsman Media on social media, Facebook and all that. Give them a follow. We'll also be posting links out if you want to check that out. It's in conjunction with us here, obviously with Chris. So it's a cool little endeavor that Chris got on the side here, and yeah, Tony Sharp's a boring dude, I'm sure. As we were talking before the show, he's a very boring dude.
Tony's my side piece. It's fine. It's fun.
Question from the crowd.
Wait. Carry on.
Curtis Spoonhour asks, Chase in the Zemco car, thoughts on how he will do. I'm hoping the best. I have more questions, and this sounds bad, maybe. I have more questions about the Zemco car than I do Chase Dietz.
I agree.
I don't know how it's going to perform.
And maybe I agree with you. And my opinion on this is I have more questions about the car than Chase. And Chase has very limited experience at Port Royal, if that tells you how much in question I have about the car. Okay?
I'll say this. Chase Dietz is good enough. He should be top 3 in points. Should be top 3 in points end of the year if things go well. And that's where the car comes in. As a driver, he should be in contention for sure. If that car holds together, he's going to be absolutely a threat to win the championship. If that ends up being their goal once we get through the early season. But Zemco's historic. Logan Wagner won 5 straight championships. They were fast-ish.
I am happy that at least the Zemco car is going to be out there, because it would be very weird if it wasn't out there. Let's see how it performs, though. I like I said, I don't question Chase.
Right, I don't question Chase. Yeah. I've seen him in a Silver Crown car. That was the most badass thing I've watched in a long time. Just him jump in there and just go ripping. Chase Dietz has the skills.
Yeah, for sure.
He'll pick up the Port Royal thing.
I honestly underrated him a little bit, and then when he did everything in the Silver Crown car, I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
I think
I didn't underrate him because I've watched him at Lincoln do well in his own stuff and 358s, and I think the Trone thing was like,
yeah,
call it what it is, man. Like I think there's always going to be questions there until they kind of get over the hump as a team, no matter who's been in that car.
Yep.
He immediately gets in his own stuff that's unproven, and he's competitive and fast. He won his first heat racing the first time in the car, and he won features, and he's running up front. I saw him battle Justin Peck at Lincoln last year. I'm like 10 times, 10 different races battling with Justin Peck. That tells me a lot. Even if he finished third, fourth, fifth, like that tells me a lot about Chase as a driver. I have no doubts as his abilities, and I think we are all starting to see what his abilities really are. Last year really put him on the map, in my opinion, as like a guy to watch out for in Posse Land, no matter where he runs. Now, I think his best track historically has been Lincoln. Consistency and winning. I think there's a lot of growing he's going to do this year between Williams Grove and Port mainly, right? We're going to really see him learn. I think there's going to be some learning moments. You're going to be like, damn. I think he had some of those last year even, but at the same time, I don't know if this overall consistency and speed at Williams Grove and Port are there yet. But it's a long season, a lot of races on the schedule, so we will find out.
I think one thing he proven in the Crown car is that he ain't afraid to go fast because those things fly on UJazz tracks, and he did well at Selinsgrove. He did well at Port Royal. Even at, I can see he's going to step up this year.
A thing going to Port Royal, at least, he's not jumping in with his team, having to start from scratch. He's jumping with a team that knows how to get around Port Royal Speedway. Yes. So they apply most of that knowledge and his driving skills. I look forward to it. I think it's going to be a breakout year for Chase Dietz overall, beyond just Port Royal.
Love it.
Brad Weatherby says, I agree with Chris, but Chase doesn't always stay on the porch like Logan. I will say, I don't know if Logan staying on the porch was always his decision either. So Chase is kind of getting off the porch in other cars. So Simcoe,
he has a life and a job, and that's what fit.
Overall,
racing always seems second to Logan for me than his life, which that's his choice. So why would we go?
And that's where we talked a couple weeks ago about Troy being that posse guy next level. Chase Dietz is that same guy right now, ready to take on the Outlaws here. But he's the kind of guy that could branch out and go take it to him like a Brent Marks does or an Anthony Macri would do in the 39M. I think he's at that level where that's kind of the expectation. And I think we're going to see it this year slowly blow it up.
By the way, you mentioned Brent Marks and he released a schedule today, and I'm on like major depression mode because he's going to be traveling so much this year.
I mean, he said he was going to go with high limit. We kind of knew that,
No, I know, but I looked at the schedule and was hoping there were breaks. He'd come home and, run some races. I was spoiled the last 2 years, him being home a lot. And as a fan, it sucks a little bit. Like, I guess I have to root for Troy Wagaman all the time now, like that's fucking
that guy.
Oh, man.
That guy.
I guess it's our guy, but
at least we like him.
84 race schedule, and Brent might have 20 races around here just because it's with the traveling series or, whatever, maybe 20. It might be 20. So, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. I'm excited for 2024 in general, though. It's going to be cool.
Danny Dietrich also released his schedule over 100 races, like always. Pretty much it seems like but they do have they're going out to Knoxville this year. So
they do have a plan for Knoxville, and it looks like their schedule is more evolution, but it seems like it's more laid out to not burn out the team. It seems like it's more laid out to be successful.
It's laid out, but you got to remember, you can schedule 100, but you're going to get rained out 10, 12, 15 times.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that turns into 85 pretty quick. And if you take time off, that turns into 80 and 75. You can schedule all of them that you want. It doesn't mean you're going to race them all. Right? Whether it's your decision or not. So, like Brent has 80, I think I saw 84. So think about 84 races and they get rained out 6, 8, 10 of them. He'll run less races than he did in 2023.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm talking about. When he schedules 100, it could change and it looks schedule friendly. Equipment, weather, travel, life.
For sure.
Quickly can 25 of them can come off of there. So schedules are always fun to think about and put out at this time of the year when you have at least they have a plan.
Which is
like Billy Dietrich said, if we feel like racing or not.
I said I was going to go Billy. I was going to go Billy. BDB next. Big ass schedule. It will change if Billy feels like it. I love that.
I love it.
Because
That's not
Billy
planned,
Dietrich's our
Billy.
guy.
Okay?
No, we
You
love
don't wanna get
Billy
out
for
of bed
that.
bro.
We don't
Yeah.
care. We love Billy for that. Macho
Anyway,
man.
what else?
Couple more comments here from the audience here. Randy Cop says Cody Hartlob could surprise some people in 2024. I think
Good.
we're
We're in
all
first
aboard
year.
the Cody train.
Cody Hartlob's going to be exciting. I got on that train late, but last year I watched him a lot. It's going to be exciting for sure, and what he's doing. We talked last week with Tony Jackson. I think it's another guy that's going to surprise some people, but it's going to be the same. He's a step behind with the learning compared to like Cody Hartlob and some of that. But he's a gasser. We watched it. It's a big change, but there's some excitement on the. We don't. I guess you're unranked. You're unranked 410 guys. We don't know where they stack. Cody Hartlob running all 24 in a 410. Tony Jackson jumping into 410. I'm excited for Kyle Keene in 58 and what he has in store for this
Dabbling
year.
in the 410. Absolutely.
There's a lot of influx in the bottom.
I think
under their service I'm excited for.
This is a big transition year, I think, for PA sprint car racing in the 410s because you got guys like Marks going out on the road. You got Lance doing his deal. You're gonna have, maybe Macri, Borden, Dietrich kind of traveling out more. We need more, you're gonna have more guys that have the spotlight on them here. You're gonna have
open.
Troy, it's good. Doors open for a Troy Wagaman, a Chase Dietz. All these guys to kind of step up and be like, all right, I'm going to go win some races here at home and be that guy that's like, we're posse proud when the Outlaws come in and see who could step up and be those torchbearers for these guys that are going out and kind of, they're still PA centric, but are going out a little bit more.
You think we get the test score of 50 National Open time and say we're talking about Chase Dietz, Troy Wagman, Freddie Raymer as the winningest drivers in PA, and then they're, I guess, rejoined by an Anthony Macri, a Brent Marks, Dan Dietrich. Now, Lance Weeks, obviously, he's never going to go away until he retires. Mm-hmm. So they may not be here every week. They're still a posse. So now we're talking.
But I'm saying week to week, the guys that we're saying, hey, these are the guys that are our posse that are here, weekly guys that are going to be there. You know what I mean? Like
let's pump the brakes a little bit here. Danny's schedule has 100 on it, and 80 of them are PA. So
right, I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Pump the brakes on like he's going to be out of town for weeks at a time.
But
he's going to have a lot of chances to win 10, 12, 15 races here at home.
Sure, but he's also here to race these guys to tighten them up.
I know. I'm with you, but it's still Freddie and Danny's show until it's not. Right? Like Brent is gone this year. I don't know. Has anyone seen a Macri schedule? Do they exist? Are they still racing? Are they alive?
We
right?
have nothing
haven't
about
heard
the
of
Macris
all winter. So if Macri does some traveling, he's still going to run 50, 60 at home. Probably could be. He hasn't committed to a series. Now it changes if he commits to a series, but I don't see it this year.
I don't see it now.
But so you have Macri, Freddie, and Danny. Okay. You have Chase Dietz as a fringe, but again, not a huge winning record at Williams Grove and Port Royal yet. Troy Wagaman is that guy for me that fills in some of these gaps. Okay. But when we talk about the young guys, I'm talking about young guys of Logan Rumsey. If he gets funding in the program, very good. He's going to be very good 410 race car driver. Cody Hartlaw knows how to take care of equipment. He knows how to get speed. He's going to learn every time he gets in the car. You have some young
Kyle Spence,
Aaron Bollinger. If Aaron Bollinger gets it figured out, we saw what he did at the end of the season at BAPS. They get that car under him and he gets rolling. He can win races. Dylan Norris, he's going to have a new deal, right? There's a lot of young guys who we already know their names. Not just Tony Jackson jumping in, that we know some of these guys' names that have been in a 410, ran some laps. I'm looking at JJ Loss, right? He went from crashing the first 2 weeks of Lincoln, leading laps and features at the end of the year. Now, is he ready to go win 10 races? No. But he's a guy that you're going to put on the front row of a race, and he could go win one.
He's going to be difficult to pass.
He's going to be difficult to pass. Your Devin Borden's still going to run a lot of local racing. He's not traveling all year, so you got to think about him at Williams Grove and Port Royal to contend with. There's just so many names I think this year that, I do believe it's going to be top heavy.
Right.
I still think it's going to be top heavy at the top of the win standings when you talk about wins. But I think that you could have more overall winners than you've had in a lot of years.
Yeah.
Right. Like we talked about it the other week with like a Cody Lehman at Port Royal, a Mike Walter at Port Royal, guys like that, Dylan Cisney. Lincoln has those same kind of guys down there. And Williams Grove is the Wild West because how many are going to show
Well,
up?
you don't know who's going to show up every week, right?
Right.
Up,
Yeah,
so.
15 to 20. We could have 30 to 10. We don't know. But when you show up, I think you look at the Chase Deeds, the Troy Wagaman. Moody was stupid fast for the back half of last year.
The front half of last year he was fast. He fell off a little bit at the end, but
he was still there.
Brandon Raymer is capable of winning races, right?
Right.
Aaron Bollinger, Brandon Raymer.
Kyle Spence. I still this
Kyle
Spence
Reinhardt.
thing.
Kyle Reinhardt, right.
Kyle Spence starting to build that 410 program up more. I think it's crazy to think about how healthy that 410 division. We look at this through the show last year. We're like, oh, it's dying, not dying, but like not as strong as it once was. To now, all these 58 guys, hey, we're gonna go 410 racing, and boom, influx of excitement. There's some quality. We know how good Cody Hartlob is. We know how good a Derek Locke, who's dabbling in the 410s, is.
Yep.
Like, it's exciting to be around Central PA this time of year, and we have the preview show coming up in a few weeks. Can't wait for it.
Tyler Isley says still a little too early, but do you think we get a new track champion at any track in 2024? No. Yeah, we do.
Brand new?
For sure. Yeah. Port Royal,
for sure?
Yeah.
For sure?
For sure.
Logo Wagner's still trolling around Port Royal.
There's too many new guys there.
Can't say for sure if he's still trolling around.
Yeah, but we don't know his deal. So
right, we do not know yet. But
I think Williams Grove could.
Well,
Go ahead.
But no, sorry.
No, I think Williams Grove could. Right, we know it's been Freddie and Danny show the last 2 years, but it doesn't take a lot. Okay, with the way that track is designed and the way it's laid out and the way things can go, it wouldn't surprise me if.
Troy.
Like Chase Dietz. Troy, Chase Dietz, the consistency and pick a few off.
They would
need a couple weeks, but listen, you're gonna have to be consistently finishing races and running up front. You may not have to have 10 wins, but you better finish
top. You have to be probably top 5 90% of the time, and win a lot of them if you're going to not be in the top 5.
I don't know about that. I don't know if you do.
If you're shooting a 90-85% top 5 percentage, you probably have to win a few. But yes, overall, you got to be there every night, laying it to them for sure.
Yeah. Dave Scott Smelter, Corey Haas can surprise some. Look, Corey Haas wouldn't surprise me at all if he won races.
If he raced,
but last couple of years they didn't show up till June, so. I don't know if I put him in that category unless I miss something and they're going to race all season every week, because I think the more he's in the car, the better he is. And yeah, he knows how to get around Lincoln Speedway. Trust me, I've watched him win plenty of races locally, right, back in the day. And, I don't know how much they're going to race. So, it would not surprise me. And if it surprises anyone, they just haven't been a fan very long. Yeah, and that's they're not on a fan, but they're new, right? Because Corey Haas, we all know Corey Haas. So
he's always been lurking around and steal some wins and earn some wins, and just kind of that guy. Been there forever, feels like.
Yeah. You don't know what's going to happen in the summer when we have another silly season either. When they start getting the June,
when
July,
they all get fired,
and it's like, oh, this shit ain't working. We're going to start switching it up again, and what can change?
And all of a sudden, you have T-shirts like Jimmy's, and it's like, what the hell's going on here?
Still one of the best shirts I own.
Finish off that thought about track champs, and listen, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but I have no reason to believe Freddie doesn't win it at Lincoln until he doesn't.
Yeah.
So I'm just preparing all of you now that aren't Freddie fans that
he might.
You better put your big girl, big boy pants on again this year, because
he might win. He might win more races at Lincoln this year than he did last year.
Oh, bold hot take from the top rope in January.
He might. I mean, I can't make an argument against that.
Yeah.
No one has shown me that they're gonna at least yet. We don't know what the year brings, but he's gonna show up there every week. He's racing weekly. He knows how to get around the place. The programs, if they improve what they did from 2022 to 2023, and they know what they want to work on going into 2024, maybe we need to have him on again and talk about what he wanted to improve on, because he did everything last year he said he was going to do.
Yeah, if they improve on that, they might be damn near unbeatable anywhere, let alone just Lincoln. It might be Wayner's Grove. It might be Outlaw shows. It might be Freddie Raymer takeover. Dietrich fans are going to melt. It's going to be great for us.
I'm here for all of them.
Yeah. Brad Weatherby says his eyes are on Kyle Reinhardt, Dylan Norris, Chase Dietz for the Grove. I can see those.
I like it. They're all right there.
Have we heard from Kyle Reinhardt on his commitment to any schedule yet?
Not that I've seen.
There's still a couple that's still out there that we are still trying to, we probably won't hear until February.
And I think
a lot of them kind of just how the weather is and everything just kind of run.
Reinhardt finished the year in that 45, right?
Oh,
no, he did not. No, he ran a few at the other end of the year and All-Star.
Right, but he ran the traveling races with that.
Someone else is taking that car over in Florida. Who's driving it? Borden, right?
Borden,
yeah.
right.
Borden's taking it at 360 down Florida. To my knowledge, I haven't heard any type of
I would say that
there for this year.
That tells me that Reinhardt's probably not doing that, but that's just me guessing.
And he just he lost Shuttlesworth was with him, so right. I mean, who knows what their deal is and everything. So he's probably, I'm sure he has a plan in so we just don't know it yet.
He's a smart guy. That's all I know.
Another guy to watch is Dylan Sisney, Port Royal, and maybe even to win one at the Grove because he was faster. He's been getting faster and faster.
Daytime shows, buddy. Daytime and slick. Put Sisney at the front, boy. Put him at the front. Yeah. I was thinking of a few drivers and again, this isn't planned on our schedule here tonight, but Williams Grove, especially some winners. I think Justin Whittall is going to win a race this year. He definitely had, a wreck last year. He's back, recovered, ready to go. He's going to be running down in Florida, getting some seat time. It would not shock me at all to see Justin Whittall in victory lane at Williams Grove. I think Jeff Halligan's going to be due for a win at Port Royal. He's been there. He's won races, but I think it could be there. That's Port Royal, but like at Williams Grove, I think this year can be a little bit of a crapshoot. Steve Buckwalter won a race last year. Yeah. You put him out front and let him go, you don't know what happens. I think Williams Grove this year could be a little more wide open for winners.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit last year. It was a little more diverse. There wasn't like a Lincoln situation where Freddie dominated.
It still came down to the last race between Freddie and Danny. You know what I mean?
So looking forward to the Williams Grove season this year and what's in store for us.
Steve Topper back at Williams Grove, saw that nugget for what it's worth.
Oh, Isley wants to see the beer wagon out front. Listen,
we'd all like to see Lucas Wolf back out front.
There were flashes last year. I think there were flashes last year more than I've seen the last couple of years on his aggressiveness running up front. He won a race last year. Where did he win a race? He won a race.
He won at Port and Williams Grove.
Yeah,
and Williams Grove.
Yeah, that's right. The makeup race.
Yeah, that's right. 100% right. So I think we're all Central PA is better off when Lucas Wolf is winning races. So I'm all here. I'm here for it.
I love just the whole. He has such a good fan base.
His fan base might even be bigger than anyone else's.
One of my most favorite moments of last year was the crowd going wild when he passed. I think he passed Danny.
He passed Danny at Port.
At Port and went on to win the race, and that was the crowd went nuts. Like there wasn't one person, even Danny fans weren't upset. That's just one guy that you always just root for.
Yeah. Right. And it's one of those dudes that's been around forever, and that's why I think he has a bigger following. He still sells a ton of merch. You see it everywhere. Even guys that are hardcore whoever fans are still Lucas Wolf fans from days gone by, from what I've seen. Yep. So he has a huge following of guys that just collect his merch, and it's always good looking. His cars are good looking. That helps. But yeah, love it.
Tony mentioned the Wickerbill rule. Has it been confirmed? Has it changed?
They're testing it a couple times. Testing Volusia and a couple of times throughout the year.
Place to test that. Why?
It's one of
big,
a few places that
stupid.
It's one of a few places that they're testing it.
Okay.
So I think they're going to test it at a bunch of different.
I am all in on this with this new tire. No Wickerbill. Get these cars unhooked, man. I am here for it because that will
still a Wickerbill. It's just a 1-inch Wickerbill, not a 2-inch Wickerbill.
Whatever. They put these
try different things,
right? So I'm 1 inch to 0. I'm in for all of it because less aero dependency, the better. That's it. Theoretically, no, physics, buddy. This is physics. Less aero dependency and issues for the car behind, and get these cars unstuck. Whatever can do it to unstick these cars. The tire last year, I think, was a move in the right direction to get them unstuck. So keep going. Yeah, junk tire, Sean, unhooked. Junk tire unhooked, not down in the track where the leader walks away until they hit lap traffic. If you get it, I am all in.
What's the
Not,
wicker
not,
bill
that's
now? Is
not
it 2
for
or 3
slowing
inches?
cars
The 2
down.
inch, just
2
2
inch?
I'm
inch.
not in favor of slowing cars
I think
down.
2
like
inch,
NASCAR
2 inch
did.
maximum. So you could run obviously none to 2,
I
but
don't need to
2.
know about your personal life, okay?
Oh, I run none, but it doesn't matter. I'm asking Jimmy's question.
I think because it's kind of like what NASCAR is doing with their short track package, where they're getting rid of the diffuser and shit.
How about that?
Arrow.
I think the tire is more important than the aero.
In NASCAR, yes. I think
I
here
think
it
even with
matters.
this, with this, the difference between a 1 and a 2 inch wicker bill. I mean, how much difference is it going to make? I guess we're going to find out.
We will find out. That's why they're testing in Volusia.
Terrible place to test.
Anyway, that's all I got.
Do it on the fastest track in the whole country. Yeah, let's test that there. That makes sense.
I don't know what to tell you.
That's all right. They got to start somewhere, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if bigger tracks are more aero dependent, why wouldn't you try it there?
Well, it's just locked down fast no matter what you do. Right. It's just the track design.
If you take off the wicker bill, maybe you won't be locked down. You never know.
Okay.
Craig Laudermilk says wicker bill won't change anything. Bring back dish wings. Brad Weatherby says
I do miss the 3x5 58 wings that were dish as fuck, and I miss it solely because I knew them apart. But
okay, Boomer. Listen, this is Central PA fan base racing right here, and I'm part of it. Right? We'll definitely make for better racing. Won't change anything.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're all gonna have opinions. Time will tell. We will see. Maybe nothing changes. We don't know.
I do like that opinion. Billy Dietrich. I hope he wins some races this year because that'd be awesome. Those YouTube videos.
Don't jump the cushion. Don't jump the cushion. Destroy the car.
Don't jump the cushion. And don't listen to Nate. There you go. Problem solved.
Like, figure it out, Billy.
Don't let Chris Frank run better than you at Clinton County.
How about that, Billy? You hear that shit talk? It's a fact, though, Billy.
Gina Morningstar. Hi, Gina. Good to see you. The Australian coming in to drive the 39. Yes, we did talk about Callum Williamson coming in to drive the Trone 39. We talked about that a little bit ago. We're all intrigued. So time will tell. We shall see.
Talent there.
We are intrigued.
Yeah.
For sure. Pulling for Billy also. Let's go.
Yeah, we're all here, big time Macho Man Billy Dietrich fans. Got to make sure I introduce him properly. Also, call me out.
Yeah, he'll call you
out. That's true. He must be sleeping. He's not here tonight.
Yeah, he just got back from I had a live stream yesterday, didn't I?
Sleeping off his vacation. Is that tonight? Tomorrow?
That was yesterday. It was yesterday.
Oh yeah, and that's true. Jump starts, jump cushions, and don't run into your brother.
Yeah,
or your brother run into you.
Don't get near Danny.
One of those three things will keep you from winning. But yeah. Anyway,
that's all I got. That's all I got. Next week, guest.
Next week,
coming soon.
Wait, we have a guest.
Guest.
You guys tell us who you want, and then we'll tell you who it is. How about that?
We got a couple more weeks here where guys maybe aren't so busy. Maybe we could pull them in before.
Maybe if Billy Dietrich wakes up by then, maybe Billy Dietrich comes back next week.
Let us know. Let us know who you want to hear.
We're gonna wait till some breaking news happens this week, and then we'll get that person on. So,
or you guys could all just tag Billy Dietrich, and maybe he comes on the show. Since
we pick out a guest, confirm them, and then they break news during the week again. So we'll do that.
It would be nice if they would just hold out this information until they're on here, and then we could break the news.
Well, we're not that special.
We're not.
We're not nearly on that level.
We are definitely not special.
Good. I mean, we wish, but we're not special.
And we are in our minds, which is all that matters. So
for sure,
we don't want Nasty Nate. He'll get us canceled.
No, he's not going to win any races. No.
And Nasty, we're good. I'm out.
All right.
Thank you guys very much. Thanks again to Brad Strawser for joining us. Definitely check out Racing Roundup on Juniata County Radio. Keep an eye out on Port Royal. They got some big things going on over there. And keep an eye out for next week. And we'll see you guys and have a good week.